Okay. All right. Welcome to day 5, classes. All right. So first, if you guys have not filled out this form, make sure to fill it out. If anyone's new or they just haven't filled out the form, make sure to fill it out. I'll give you guys a few minutes to fill it out. Oh, also, could you put the link in the chat in case they can't scan it?
Yeah, I'll do it. Before we move on to the next part, by a show of hands, who cannot make it on this Saturday's test session? Is there anyone who cannot make it?
It's at
Just
6.
Tasia?
Wait, what time is it?
It's at 6
Oh.
to 7:30.
Okay.
Okay, so there's gonna be about four or five of you, including Tasia, that are not gonna be here. So we'll just create another session for you guys. We'll just talk to you guys separately. Okay, I think Sanjay, you can continue.
Okay. All right. So today we'll be covering classes. So classes are one of the harder concepts to grasp for new programmers, and they're definitely harder than methods. The first time I learned classes, it was kind of confusing for me. So if you guys have any questions, make sure to just unmute and ask them, and because this is a pretty complex topic. All right, so what are classes? So classes are templates used to model objects. So some real world examples would be like food, vehicles, or animals. Alright, so classes can have two things. One, properties, which are variables declared inside the class but outside of any method, and methods. So these are actions to take on the object with the object's information. So basically what the method does is it takes the properties which it takes the properties of a class and it does some action with them. Like for example, like calculating something or finding something. So classes are similar to methods in that they reduce code duplication and they help you read the code easier because they break up code into smaller and more manageable parts. So a class is like a template for an object, and each copy of a class is called an instance. So one good example is imagine like a cookie cutter. So a class is like a cookie cutter because it's like a template. So each cookie you make with the cookie cutter is called an instance. So instances are variables. So therefore they are declared with a name like primitives and arrays. So they follow the same conventions as variable naming. They can be used as parameters for methods like other variables, and they follow the same rules of variable scope we discussed yesterday inside methods. All right, so um, class instances. So all class instances have the same property names, but the value of those properties are separate per instance. So in case you didn't understand, going back to a cookie cutter example, so imagine if you make two cookies with the same cookie cutter, but you put green sprinkles on one and blue sprinkles on the other. So the property name is sprinkled, but the property is different per cookie. So if on one cookie the property is blue sprinkles and on the other it's green sprinkles. So this is what we mean by the properties are the same, but the properties are separate per each instance. So a word that you've probably seen as you've been coding is a static word. So the static modifier basically has to do with properties and property names, but we're going to learn about the static modifier later. So the verb for creating an instance is called instantiating. All right, wait. So any questions on what I just covered? All right. All right. So this is how you would make a class. So it's like a basic class syntax. So I'll cover each of these sections in detail individually. So first, this green section. So this is called a modifier. So we'll learn more about modifiers tomorrow, but for now, just know that if you want to make a class, you always have to include this class modifier. Alright, next, in blue is the class name. So this is a user-defined name for the class. So the convention for class names is the capital letter. So you started with a capital letter. So for example, string or scanner are both classes, and they have a capital S to start off the name. In our example here, our class name is point, and notice how point has a capital P. Alright, next, properties. So class properties are defined outside of any method, and our class does not need to have any properties, but without properties, classes are not that useful. So in our example, our properties are double x and double y. So as you can see, these properties are not defined in any of the methods. It's just outside of, it's just inside the class. All right, next, the constructor. So the constructor is in purple. So this is a method that's called when the class is instantiated. So in order to make the constructor, the method name must be the same as the class name. So in our example here, public point double x and double y is the constructor. So this is because this point, this method has the name of point and the class is also point. So both these have the same name, so that's what makes this a constructor. Alright, finally, methods. So class methods can be executed from a class instance. Again, methods don't need to have, classes don't need to have methods, but without methods, they're not as useful. So you can have as many methods as you want in the class, but in our case, we only have one, which is distance from origin. So this method returns a double, and basically what it does is it does the square root of x squared and y squared. So basically it takes the properties of the class, which is x and y, and then it does some calculation, and then it returns them. Alright, so next, the application class. So this is what a typical Java application looks like, and most of your code will look something like this, where there's a main method and a class. So the application class is the class which has the main method. So in our case, the application class is sample project because it has the main method. So all methods must exist inside the class, even the main method. Like main exists in the class sample project. So one thing to know is that the application class does not have a constructor. So all application class properties referenced in main in the application, all application class properties referenced in main must have the static modifier. So as you can see, one property we have is public static number, and again we'll learn about the static modifier later, but for now just know that all methods and properties in the application class must have the static modifier. Alright, so here we have our class, but how do we instantiate this class so we can use it somewhere else? Oh, wait one second. Alright, so any questions from here? Okay, I will go on. Alright, so yeah, so this is how a class would look like. It's just a simple class. But how do we instantiate this class so we can use it somewhere else? So this is how you would do it. So in your main method, um, you would say you would use the same name as your class. In our case, the class name is point, and then you name it something. So we'll name it some point equals new, and then you say point again, and then parentheses and a semicolon. Another example, you say point, another point, which is the variable name, and new point. So note that some point is a variable and storing the instance of point. So this is how you would instantiate a class and store it in a variable. All right, more memes. I was told before that I'm not giving you guys enough time to appreciate memes, so I will give you enough time. All right. So Java new keyword. So as we saw before, in instantiating the class, we have this word called new. So this comes before instantiating the class. So basically what it does is that it allocates memory for a new object, and then it returns a memory reference to the object. Alright, so you don't really have to worry about memory and memory references, but just know that in order to instantiate an object, you have to use this new keyword. And basically basically this is creating a new instance of point, and it's storing it in the variable some point. Okay. So accessing class members. So here we have our point class with two properties x and y. So in the new class, in a separate class, we have our main method. So here we have our instantiation, which we just talked about, where we say point some point equals new point. So basically what this does, it creates an instance of the point class, and it stores it to a variable some point. But the properties of some point, which are x and y, have no value yet. So we have to assign them to something. But how do we access the properties of some point? So we do this by saying some point dot x is equal to 5. So so basically what this is doing is that it assigns 5 to some points property of x. So and then if you do system.out.println some point.x, you will get 5. So the syntax for accessing a class's members, wait one second. Back. All right. So the syntax for accessing a class's members, members is just a word to refer to the properties and methods, is by saying the variable name, and then a period like the dot, and then the member name. So here we have some point dot x equals 5. So that's how we assign 5 to the value of x. All right, any questions? Right. All right, so here we have our first exercise. So we're gonna instantiate a class. So copy this code, this blue code, into a separate file. Make sure it's in a separate file and not the same as main. So in your application class, which is your main class, write some code that creates 2 instances of this class, initializes 2 of its member variables, which is an int and a float, and then prints these variables to the console. All right, so this might take you a while, and that's okay. We'll give you guys 7 minutes, and if you guys need more time, we can give you more time.
Yeah, and since this might be new for you guys, and you guys might not know how to create like a file and stuff like that, I was gonna show you how to create like a file so you can get started with this exercise. So Sanjit, if you could allow me to screen share for a sec, please. Okay, so basically for this exercise, it wants you to copy this class, right, and create it in a new file. So I know some of you guys have already created new files before in coding rooms, but if you guys don't know how to do it, then in your student workspace, over here, if I take an example, you can see this paper over here, right? And so this paper is basically how you're going to create a new file. So for example, if I wanted to create a new file, and we already have a file named numberholder.java over here. So if I just use it, then you can just basically copy this code into the folder called numberholder. And then, as Sanjit said before, you'd be using your main class, this main file over here. This is where your application class is going to be. So you're going to be instantiating your variable inside the main method here. And we'll give you guys like 5 minutes to do this one. Oh, also, as a reminder, when you guys finish doing the exercise, please raise your hands. Okay, so it's been about 5 minutes. So everyone who's done, please raise your hands.
Wait, I think you should go for a little bit longer. I want more people to finish their code.
Oh yeah, sure.
'Cause
I'll
there's
give
a
you
few
guys
people.
an extra 5 minutes. Okay, it looks like we have more volunteers now. And it looks like some of you guys don't understand what to do. So I was thinking we could take a different approach to this exercise. So I was hoping that one of you guys would be able to explain to me everything to do step by step, and then we can do it together as a class. So, Ria, do you want to explain to me step by step on what we should do for this exercise?
Sure.
Okay, so can you tell me the first thing you did?
Yeah, how do I paste the code? Do I paste like the first part into the main.java and then the other into the other one?
Oh, you don't need to paste it. You can just tell me what steps you took, and then we can work together on it as a class.
Okay. So first in the numberholder.java file, I declared the class, and then within that, just the two like public int anint and public float. And then that was all that was in that file. And then the
Yeah.
main.java file, after the public class main, then just declared the main method. And then in the main method, stored stored like the anint and a float inside variables. So I did my first variable was pi, and then I had that as new number holder, and
Wait, so what was the variable name you gave this?
I just put hi.
Okay, so I guess we could just call this num, I guess. And then what else did you do from here?
And then I also created. So then from there you can set the values of like if you do num dot int and then set it equal to a value, and num dot a float equal to a value, and then also f at the end. And after that, I just did system.out.println, and I printed num.anint and num.afloat.
Okay, that's perfect. And let's print the value over here. We're printing out the integer value right now. And now we're going to be printing out the float value. Okay, and now let's see if this thing runs. Okay, yep, we got our integer value, which we set as 5, and we got our float value, which we set as 2. So does everyone understand basically this code? So basically what we had to do is, since we had to create an entire new class, we went into this new file over here. So we named it numberholder.java because this is the class name that we're basically creating. And so inside this new file, we created this new class, public class numberholder. And whenever you're making an instantiation of this class, so basically whenever you're making a variable of type numberholder, every numberholder variable is going to have two values. It's going to have a value which we're calling an int, and it's going to have a float value which we were calling a float. So now we have to instantiate a numberholder variable in our application class. So an application class is basically the class which has the main method inside it. So this is going to be our file, which is main.java. And in this main method over here, basically what we're doing is we're instantiating this numberholder class. So we're creating a variable. The type is going to be numberholder. And our variable name, we're just calling it num. And now we're going to set the variables an int and a float for num. So we're doing num.anint is equal to 5. And then num.afloat is equal to 2.0. And you can send an int and a float to any value you want. And then over here at the bottom, we're just printing out two statements, and that's how we get our value. So does anyone have any questions on that? If you guys do, just unmute and ask your question.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So why are we putting numberholder into a different file?
That's because whenever you create a new class, you always want to create it in a new file. So for example, if you wanted to create a new class called like number creator, right?
Mm-hmm.
You'd create an this new file over here. You would give it the name of whatever class you were gonna name it as. So right now I'm doing numbercreator.java. And then inside this class over here, we would just declare a class. Basically, the short answer is that whenever you want to create a new class, you always have to create a new file with it. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay, nice. Does anyone else have any questions on this? Okay. If not, we can go to our second exercise. So this is going to be a second exercise on class creation. And this time you guys are going to create a new class called cube. So remember, create a new file first, name it cube.java, and then you can create your cube class inside that file. So inside your cube class, make sure to give it the properties of length, width, and height. And then in the main method, so go to your application class next, so main.java. And inside that, instantiate two different cube variables inside the main method. And basically, you can set properties to these three values. And then make sure your code runs without any errors. So since this is a new concept, I'll give you guys 7 to 8 minutes to finish this. And once you guys are done, you guys can just raise your hands. Okay guys, so there seems to be some confusion on this exercise and basically how to create classes in general. So let me go step by step on this exercise with you guys. And basically just try to follow along. If you guys have any questions on any step, just make sure to unmute yourself and ask. And we'll be completely happy to help you guys. So right now, our exercise is we need to create a class named cube. So that's going to be our first step. So basically, whenever we're creating a class, we always need to create a new file. So if you guys see over here, there's a paper icon on the left of your screen. And if you press it, and you press this addition arrow, it basically allows you to create a new file. And inside the file, you can create a new class. So for this one, we need to create a new class called cube. So let me create a new file called cube.java. And now we have our new class made, our new file made over here. And we want to declare a new class called cube. So what we have to do is we have to use a modifier, public class, and then we create the name cube. We obviously include our curly brackets, and we've now created our new class. So now the next thing that we need to do is we have to create 3 variables inside this cube class. So we need to create a double length, a double called width, and a double called height. So these are all going to be properties of a cube, which is why we're creating it in this file. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do public double length, public double width, and public double height. Now we have the 3 properties inside our class. So does anyone have any questions on this step?
How many of you made it to this step?
Yeah, if you guys have made it to this step, please raise your hand. I'll give you guys like a few minutes to copy this down too if you guys need it. So yeah, there's some people which aren't at this step yet, so I'll give you guys like a minute or two just to copy down this code that we have so far now. So next what we have to do is we have to instantiate 2 cubes inside our main method. And basically, so what we want to do now is we need to go back to our application class. So this is basically going to be where our main method is, and this is where we can instantiate new cube variables. And so we have our main method over here. And let me just delete some of the code inside here. So now we're starting off with a fresh new main method, and what we want to do is we have to create 2 new instances of this cube class. So basically we need to create 2 different cube variables. So the first one we can call cube1 equals new cube. And then now we need to create a second cube instance or a second cube variable. And we can just call this one cube2. Does anyone have any questions on this step? Okay, if not, then remember that in our cube class, every single cube instance that we create is going to have these 3 properties, length, width, and height. So since we didn't define anything in cube.java for like a value for any of these, that means that in our main method, we can create basically like whatever value we want for each of these cubes to have. So for example, like in cube1, right? If we want cube1, if we want the length to have like a value of 5.0, then we can also set the width to 5.0, and we can do the height as 5.02. And remember to add your semicolons when you're done with the line. And we can do the same exact thing for cube 2 over here. So for cube 2, we can set different values of length, width, and height if we wanted to. So like let's say for cube 2, let's say you want the length of it to be equal to maybe 2.3. And then even though cubes are supposed to have an equal length, width, and height, we can definitely make an exception in Java for that. So like if I want to set a value of 6.7, I can do that. I can set this basically to any double value that I want to. So that height is equal to 8.94, for example. Now, just to make sure that our values are set, we can always try printing out some of them. So system.out out.println. And then let's say we want to see if cube2 has its length set properly. So we can print this one. Let me copy this line. And now let's say we want to print out the height of cube 1. Now we can test to see if our code works by just pressing the run button. And yeah, so we set the length of cube 2 to be 2.3. So we're printing that out and we're getting a value of 2.3. And we set cube 1's height to be equal to 5.0. And that's what we're getting right now. So does anyone have any questions on this exercise? If you guys do, just unmute and ask. Okay, so here's the second question. Should we move on to this to the next exercise, or should I give you guys a few minutes to just copy this code down? Anyone who still needs the code, please unmute and just say you guys do need it. Okay, so I guess that means that everyone's ready to move on to the next exercise. Now,
I'm having an error.
Oh yeah, you have an error?
Yeah.
Okay, do you want to paste your code in, I guess?
Sure, because it's saying something like, error main method not found in class cube.
Okay. Wait, are you trying to run the cube class?
No, I'm trying to run the main, class.
Oh, main.java?
Yeah.
Okay. Actually, let me go to your student workspace instead.
Sure.
So, you're Advion, right?
Yeah.
Okay, nice. Okay. Okay, yeah, I see your code now. So yeah, what you need to do basically is you need to create a new file, and then you have to name it main.java.
I did. I'm on main.java right now.
Really? Because
Yeah. Click
on
on
my
the
screen,
click on the paper one. Click on paper, and you should be able
oh,
to see that.
okay, I see it now.
Yeah, when I'm doing it, look, I don't know if you see the error. It says something like,
Yeah, it says main method not found in class cube. Okay.
I think, wait, go up, press the drop down. Like, drop down for run.
Oh,
oh, do you think it could be running, cube.java?
Yeah, I think that got set as your default. If you go to the cog, you can select your default class.
Oh, alright.
yeah, so if you run main.java, it should work.
Alright. Oh, yeah, it's working.
Okay, do you have any other questions?
No, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. So does anyone else have a question on this? Is anyone else's code not working as it's supposed to? Okay, so I guess we can move on to the next exercise. So for this one, our new exercise is going to be you have to create a circles class now. So make a new file called circle and then just create a circle class. And inside that circle class, now you're going to add new methods. So you're going to add one method to calculate the circumference of the circle and a second method to calculate the area of the circle. And these methods are going to be similar to the exercise we did yesterday. And once you guys are done with your circle class, go into your application class and create an instance of the circle. And then basically print out the circumference and area of a circle with the user inputted radius. So make sure when you guys are creating the circle class, also create a variable called radius, so you guys can calculate the circumference and the area. So this one might be a bit more time consuming than the last one. So I'll give you guys around like 12 minutes to do this. And once you guys are done, as always, just make sure to raise your hand.
So I have a question.
Yeah, sure.
Are we gonna be, so we're not gonna be using the main method in the circle class, right? We're just using
For this
different.
exercise, or
Yeah.
for this exercise, it says that you need to create an instance of this class. So use the main method after you create the circle class. Just go into your main.java, and inside your main method, just create like a circle variable.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But sorry, my question was like on the method. Like, we're making the method in the circle class, right? So
Which one? The circumference and the area method?
yeah.
Yeah, those go inside the circle class.
Those are not main methods, right?
No, you don't put that in the main method. You just put it in the circle class.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah.
For a method to be considered a main method, you literally have to name it like letter by letter public static void main, and then string args for any command line argument. Anything that isn't exactly that is not going to be considered a main method.
Also, where are we importing the scanner for the radius? Like in which class? The circle class?
So you have to think of it in terms of like jobs. So is the circle class's job to get the user's input, or is the circle class's job just to return a circumference given a radius, right? So for that case, the main method's job is just using the circle class. And then what do we want to use the circle class for? We want to take a radius and find the circumference. That type of, does that make sense? So essentially your scanner would go in your main class, not your circle class.
Okay, yeah. Thank you.
Okay, I think we can start now. So, Soham, so the first thing I need you to do is, could you tell us how you created your circle class?
Oh yeah, sure. So basically, at first, wait, do I need to print it? I mean, copy it into the file, or do I just say it out loud?
Just say it out loud for now.
Okay. So at first, I created a variable called radius. Then I created a method called area, which I just said public double area.
Oh wait, could you first tell us like the steps you took to actually creating like the file and the class?
Okay. So basically, I clicked on the paper icon as told. Then I clicked on the plus icon. Then I named the file circles.java because it's the class file, not the main file. And then I typed out public class circles. And then I did the variable, which was public int radius. And then I put the two methods in.
Okay, and for your circumference and area formula, could you just paste it into this thing over here?
Yeah, sure. So I pasted it in the workspace. It's at the very top.
Oh yeah. So let me copy this and put it in our circle class. So Soham, could you explain how you did both of these methods?
So what I did was I didn't. So I created two methods. One of them was area, and then that you can see in the method I said public double area, which means that
this method's gonna return a double. And then I calculated the area by doing mat.pi times radius squared, mat.power radius squared. It's squares to radius, and that will give you the area of a circle. Then the second method returns a double too, and it gives you the circumference of the circle. And the formula is 2 pi r, so I just did mat.pi times 2 times radius.
Okay, nice. So does anyone have any questions on how Soham did the area and circumference methods? Okay, if not, then our second step was we had to go to the application class, and we had to create basically an instance of the circle, and we had to print out the circumference and the area of the circle. So now we have to go into our main method, and if I can scroll down a bit, let me clear this stuff out. So Soham, could you explain how you instantiated the circle variable?
Yeah, sure. Do I paste it now?
Oh yeah, sure.
Right. So what I did was I accessed the class by calling my class name. I named it circles. So I did circles. Then I named it circle1 equals new circles object. So I referenced the class again, create a new object. And then I gave a value to that radius variable that we created earlier. I put 10 as a value. And then I printed out the area by calling the method that we also defined earlier by doing circle1.area. And then under that, I called the circumference by calling the same method that we defined earlier by doing circle1.circumference.
Yep, this is perfect. And let's say if we run it and it gives the value.
Mhm.
So yep, we have our area and our circumference given over here in the output. So does anyone have any questions on how Soham did his code? Okay, and does anyone else need this code to be up for a few minutes, or can we move on to the next exercise?
Could you leave it up for like like a minute or something like that, or like 10 seconds?
Yeah, sure. I'll leave it up for like 2 minutes.
Okay, I got it. Thank you.
Okay, nice. So does anyone else need the code up? Okay. I guess we can move on to our next exercise. So now we're going to be going back to the cube class that we created just a few slides ago. And now we're going to be adding a new method to the cube class. So now you're going to be creating a string method and name it toString. And basically inside this method, you want to return a human readable representation of length, width, and height. So basically you want to return a string value which basically says the length of this cube is ... and the width of the cube is ... and the height of the cube is ... It should basically just return a string statement which basically just says the length, width, and height. And next, go to your main method and create 2 instances of the cube class. And then for each one of those cube instances, just set a length and width and a height of any number of your choosing. And then once you finish with that, do system.out.println and then do cube.toString, and then it should read the string value that you set in the toString method. So I'll give you guys like around like 12 to 13 minutes to do this one. And as always, once you guys are done, just raise your hand. And yeah, you guys can get started.
What are we supposed to put inside string to string?
Okay, so in string to string inside that method, basically all you need to do is basically just return the length, the width, and the height of your cube in like a string format. So like for example, just say like if you're setting the length of your cube as 5 basically, then for example what string to string would return is you return a string value which is like this cube has a length of 5. Kind of like that. You understand?
Oh, okay. Yep. Thank you.
Okay, nice.
I have a question.
Yeah, sure. What's your question?
So, do I have to return the length of the cube is, the width of the cube is, like in one return, or like do I have to use a for loop or something?
No, in one return.
Okay.
Okay, if you guys don't understand what to do for the string to string, we can walk through it right now. So do you guys need more time, or should I just walk through how to do the exercise? Just like unmute if you have a preference.
Could you walk us through it?
Yeah, sure. So basically, for this exercise, we had to go back to this cube class, and we had to create a new method called toString. And basically, that would return what we call a human readable representation of length, width, and height. Basically, all that means is we have to go to cube, and then we have to create a new method called public string toString. And we have our length, our width, and our height variables now. So let me create 3 strings over here. So string length value, string width value, and string height value. So for our length value, we would say something like the height of the cube is, and then we would add, or sorry, the length of the cube. And then we'd add our length variable to the end, so we know the length now. And so in our width one, we'd start off with like a semicolon just to separate these two. And then we'd say something like the width of the cube is, and then we add width. And finally for the height, we just use a semicolon, and the height of the cube is, and the height. So now we need to return one string statement, but we have 3 string values over here. So all we need to do is something called concatenation, which is just attaching these strings together. So how I would do that is I would just use the addition symbol over here, combine all these strings together, and return a single value of a string. And now we'd have to go to our main function, and it says for the 2 instances in your main method. So basically what we have to do is we have to create 2 new cube variables, and we have to set the length, the width, and the height for each one of them. So let me go here. We can delete this code in here. And so let's do cube. Cube 1 is equal to new cube. Cube, cube, cube 2 equals new cube. Sorry, that's my timer. Okay, now we need to set different values for both cube 1 and for cube 2. So first we can do cube 1, and we can just set everything as equal to 5 for now. So we do that for the width, and we do it for the height. Now we have to do the same thing for cube 2. So for now, let's just set some random value like 3.45. Now what we have to do is we basically have to print out this toString for each one of these cubes. So now the first thing we want is we want the toString for cube 1. So we do system.out.println, then cube 1, and then we're now going to be calling our toString method. And then we do the same thing for cube 2. Oh, for this one, I accidentally did cube 3 instead of cube 2. So now, if we run it, it should give us a value. And yeah, so you can see here, for cube 1, we're getting the length of the cube is 5, the width of the cube is 5, and the height of the cube is 5. And for cube 2, we're getting the same thing, except it's returning a different length values. So it's giving 3.45, 3.45, and 3.45. So does anyone have a question on how we did this? If you guys do have a question, just unmute at any time. Otherwise, we're going to be moving on to the next part of our slideshow. So here's some memes for you guys to enjoy. I'll give you guys like a minute.
I can relate to the first one.
Nice. Does anyone else relate to these memes? Okay, at least we had one person relate to that. That's nice. Okay, so now we're going to be talking about constructors. So over here in our main method, we have two examples of instantiations. And basically what we're instantiating is some class called point. So we're doing point, some point is equal to new point. And you can see we have to add these parentheses after the second point over here. So basically what that's calling is it's calling something called a class constructor. So basically when the parentheses are at the end of your class name, it's going to be calling something called the class constructor. And for any class that you create, the class constructor is optional. So for example, in our cube class over here, you can see that we never actually created a class constructor. If we did create a constructor, it would look like public, and then you have to use the name of your class. And then we could create something like this. This would be how we would create a constructor. But as you can see, even though in our classes, in some of our classes, we didn't have to create a constructor, and that's perfectly fine. These things are optional. But creating a constructor is super useful, and it's super line efficient. Because if you guys see in our example over here in main.java, you guys saw that we have to write 3 lines just to set a length, a width, and a height value for our cube variable. But if we use a constructor, constructors are basically used for initializing different variables. And so if we use a constructor, we could just write 1 line of code instead of writing all 3 lines of code. So let's learn how to write a class constructor. So over here we have an example of the class constructor. So we have our public class point over here, and inside it we're going to be having two class variables. We have a public double called x, and we have a public double called y. And so basically, this purple thing over here, this is basically how you're going to define a class constructor. So for a class constructor, you'd have public, that's your modifier. And then you're not going to have like class or anything like that. There's no type for it. You would just put the name of the class after public. So in this case, our class's name is point. So we're going to be making our constructor named as public point. And the next thing you do is you would add any parameters that you need. So in this one, we're getting a double x and a double y. And you can set as much parameters as you want, or you can even have a parameter value of 0. And inside our constructor, we're going to be doing this.x is equal to x and this.y is equal to y. So what does that mean? So basically that means that this.x is basically referencing this class variable x over here. And we're going to be setting this.x equal to this x parameter that we got in. And we're doing the same thing for class variable y. So we're doing this.y is equal to this parameter y that we're setting in. So now we have two examples in the main method of how to do it. So our first instantiation is going to be a variable called SumPoint, and then equals new point, and in these parentheses we're sending in a value of 1 and 2. So that means inside this constructor over here, we're sending in a double value of 1 and a double value of 2. So that means that for some point, its x value is going to be 1 and the y value is going to be 2. And we're doing the same thing for our second instantiation, which is called another point. And this time we're sending in the x value as 3 and the y value of 4. So that's now what the variable is going to be storing right now. And basically, as you saw in the previous example, the instance is setting two of its properties to values passed into the constructor method. And as I talked about, if you want to be setting this class variable x and y, you would have to reference it by doing this.x. And then if you don't add this dot, then you would be referencing this parameter value of x. And as a side note, this can also be used to reference both the instance's properties, so basically the different variables, and the methods as well. So here are some notes that you can take on class constructors. And then one thing to note is that the constructor didn't have to be declared and used. So as you can see in this public class point over here, we did not create a constructor. But instead of doing SumPoint.x is equal to 1 and SumPoint.y is equal to 2, and a way easier way to do it is just to create a constructor in public class point, and then send in the values of 1 and 2 into the constructor, and then it would automatically set this value of x and y. That'd be way more code efficient than doing what we have in the main method over here. So now you guys are going to have a chance to try out using constructors. So now you're going to go back into the cube class and you're going to create a constructor. So this constructor should have 3 parameters because it should be taking in length, width, and height as its parameters. And set the instance properties or the class variables to these different parameter values. And then after you did that, change the instantiations in the main method so it's only using the constructor method instead of going one by one and setting these instant properties. So since this is a new concept, I'll give you guys like 13 minutes to complete this. And once you guys are done, as always, just raise your hand and we can continue on from there.
I had a question.
Yeah, what's your question?
Just give me a second.
Okay, sure.
My question was when. Oh shoot! I'm sorry. Just give me a second.
Yeah, that's fine. Take your time.
My question was when you're doing the when you're like doing the program, do you have to include the calculations for volume and surface area in there? Like when as soon as like you enter like the length, width, and height as the parameters, do we have to like put like anything where there's you know
Um, no, you
where?
don't need to do that. Just
All right.
create like the constructor and like assign values and stuff.
Oh, all right. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, I was kind of freaking out how I'd do that.
Wait, could you repeat that?
I was saying like I was freaking out because I thought I might not have enough time to like do this and along with like creating like the different functions to do.
Oh yeah, that's fine. You don't have to
Yeah.
do any of the functions. Just do like the constructor.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll give you guys like 5 more minutes, and then we can probably present this one. Okay, so it looks like we have more people who finished. So anyone who's not raising their hands right now, do you guys need more time? Or do you guys need one of us to basically explain how to do it? Okay, I think just to move on, we'll have someone do it. So basically, the first thing we needed to do is we needed to create a constructor for our cube class, and we needed to take in length, width, and height as parameters. So Teja, do you want to verbally tell me how you did this step?
Yeah, sure, I can explain. I'm explaining, wait, what am I explaining again?
Basically explain how you created the constructor for the cube class.
Okay, so in the cube class, so for the constructor, I just created 3 parameters. So I said, do you want me to copy paste it somewhere?
No, it's fine. You can just tell me what
Okay.
you did.
Yeah, so I created 3 parameters, double width, double length, and double height.
Okay.
And then I used this dot width equals width, and I just set each parameter to the one we instantiated on top.
Okay, nice. So you guys can see here that basically what Teja did is he created the constructor by just doing public, and then you have to do the class name. So since we're doing a constructor for the cube class, we're going to be calling it cube. And then he's taking in 3 parameters as inputs. So a double length, a double width, and a double height. And since we have 3 class variables over here, length, width, and height, we're setting these variables as the parameters over here. So this dot length is equal to this parameter length. This dot width is equal to the parameter width, and this dot height is equal to the parameter height. And so now we have to go into our main class, and we created 2 cube instances over here. We created cube 1 and cube 2. So Teja, what did you do from this step?
Okay, so one sec. Okay, so inside the parentheses for the new cube, I just gave it the 3 parameter the integers. So I just gave it 3 random values.
Okay, so yeah, so we can just create random values, like we can just create it as 3 for this one. And for the second cube, let's just do 2.13, 4.232, and 7.14. So now for cube1, for the cube1 variable, it's going to be setting in these three values, length, width, and height, as all of them as 3. And for our second cube instance, for cube2, it's going to be setting the length as 2.13, the width as 4.32, and the height as 7.14. So now you don't have to manually do like cube1.length equals 3. You can just set it in this parameter over here, and it's going to work. And now let's call the two string values for both of them just to make sure that it set the values in as properly. So if we run it right now, yep, we can see that it's setting the length of cube1 as 3, and it's also setting for cube2, it's setting the length, the width, and the height values as properly shown. So good job explaining, Teja. Does anyone have any questions on this code? Okay, if you guys think of any questions, just make sure to unmute at any point and ask them. Or if you guys don't have any more questions, then we can go on to the next exercise. So now this exercise is class methods, and inside the cube class, create two methods. Create a volume method, which returns a double type, and this one is going to calculate the volume of the cube. And create a surface area method of type double, which calculates the surface area of the cube. So I'll give you guys like 10 minutes to do this one. And once again, after you guys are finished, just make sure to raise your hand and we can continue on from there. Okay, so I guess we can proceed. So Vishnu, do you want to paste your code in and explain your two methods?
Okay. So I created two methods. The first method is volume, which returns double, and it returns length times width times height. And then the second method is surface area, which returns 6 times length times width, which is basically surface area. That's all for the methods. Okay.
So nice job, Vishnu. And just to make sure it works, let's just print it out.
But wait,
So,
didn't you like you have to call it, right? So I'll paste that code too.
oh, for like in the main Java?
Yeah.
Oh, did you create code to call it too?
Yeah, I did. I just didn't paste
Oh,
it
okay.
yet.
Oh, yeah, sure, nice. You want to paste it then?
Yeah. So can I just paste the whole thing I have, because I have different names for
Yeah,
the
sure, that's fine.
okay.
Okay, and you see that Vishnu is calling the volume and the surface area for both of his cubes. And Vishnu, you want to run it?
Yep.
Says there's a error at line 12. Oh. I think there's just, I think it should work now.
Yep. Thank you.
Yeah, and you can see that everything is working for him. It's returning the length, the width, and the height and stuff. And it's also returning the volume and the surface area. So good job, Vishnu. Does anyone have any questions on his code? Okay, if not, we'll move on to our final exercise for today. And so for this exercise, you have to create a computer class. So basically, just create a new file and a new class called computer. And in that class, set the following values. So create a double called speed, and this is going to represent your CPU speed in gigahertz. Create an integer called RAM, and this is going to represent gigabytes of RAM. Create an integer called HDD, and this gives you the gigabytes of hard drive space. And create a boolean value called turned on, and set it equal to false for now. And if it's false, then basically that means that the computer is turned off. But when you set it to true, it means that the computer is going to be turned on. And once you guys are done creating these variables, you can move on to this, and you can create these methods. So once again, create a toString method, which gives you like basically gives you like the speed, the RAM, the HDD, and the turned on in like a string format. Then create a void called turn on. So basically when you call this method, it's going to set turned on to true. Set the boolean value turned on to true. Create another method called turn off, and this will set basically your boolean turned on to false. And then finally create a method called restart. And then inside restart, call the turn off method, and then after that call on the turn on method. And then after all that, go back to your main.java, and then instantiate a computer variable, set all the properties, and call all of its methods, and see if it works. So I'll give you guys like 10 minutes to do this because we don't have much time left. And then around at 7:55, we can reconvene, and then I'll show you guys how to do it. So once you guys are finished, if you guys finish, make sure to raise your hand, and then, yeah, we can continue onwards.
All right, guys, it's coming close to the end here. It's almost 8 o'clock, so I think we will call it. So if you guys didn't finish this exercise, please, if you want, please finish this, as well as if Nihil, could you go to the next slide where it's the robot class? If you could finish this exercise as well, that would be great. Tomorrow we'll go over after class if you have any questions. This assignment is optional, so if you guys want to learn more, just stay after tomorrow's class and we'll review this exercise. Anisha, am I missing anything else? Okay, I think that's it. If you have any questions, stick around. If not, you guys can leave.
Thank you. Bye.
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 Thank you. Bye.
Okay.
Speed string plus string plus flash string plus.
Lajwan, do you have a question?
David, do you have a question?
Who here has a question? Just yell it out or shout it out.
I just wanted to know, like, for the last one here.
Shemant, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry.
Okay. So are we just supposed to like assign values for the variables and like just print them together?
So for speed, RAM, and HDD, create like a constructor value for that. Create like a constructor, right? And then when you're instantiating the variables, just put them in as parameters and set them like that. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
David, do you have a question?
Yeah, if you guys don't have a question, you guys can just leave.
I had one question on a separate thing that I was doing, not something that we were doing today, but something I kind of was working on like on the second or third day. Nothing like really.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So I was just gonna
Um,
ask how like you would do this and all right, here, let me share my screen.
oh yeah, sure, nice.
All right, let me open VS Code real quick just to put in my all right. Mm, all right. Do you guys see my screen?
Oh yeah, I see it now.
Yeah, okay. So I created this one program which it's kind of like this sort of small like gambling type of thing where like it's like you choose like an integer between 1 and 20 and like and then if you the person who's closest to that integer wins. All right. So the thing is about that is I want to do like a new string where it asks the person's name, but the problem is as soon as like I put that in, it'll ask the person's name along with the number that they want to put in. So it like kind of confuses the person like what they have to put in first. So it's like I were like to put like string dot yeah string name one. It gives me an error. So how would you like do this? Like how would you sort of do that?
You want to run it first to see like what output it's giving.
Yeah, so here I ran it like it's right here. And whatever. Okay, here are the rules. Player one will enter this and yeah. So originally it was that player one enter your name, then it would ask him for the number. However, it would ask the number and the name at the same time, without like waiting for the user input on the behalf of the name before the number. Do you know how I'd like do that? Like put
Okay. Let me look at your code first. I'm currently looking at it right now.
in what?
No, I'm just looking at
Oh,
your code. Yeah.
alright. In case, tell me if I need to scroll sideways.
Hold on, I just got some water. What's the question here?
So my question was, so I basically on my spare time I just decided to like create this program, right? It basically is kind of like a gambling sort of thing where it's like player one and player two will enter like some positive integer between 1 and 20, and the person closest to that integer like wins. So originally it was where it would ask your name and your number. However, it would always ask the number before allowing the user to input their name. And
So
yeah,
wait,
I know.
so what do you want it to do?
I wanted to like ask the name first before asking the number. But like when I like when I like ran this with like the string, it would always ask it would always ask the name then the number at the same time. So it would really confuse the person on which one to enter first. And yeah,
Wait, do you have a print statement in here which is asking for the name?
yeah, not currently. I deleted it.
Oh, well, do you want to add it in then? So we
All
can
right,
like help you fix that?
all right, sure, I'll add it. Sure. So over here. Oh no, sorry, no, I didn't mean to go there. All right.
While this is happening, is there anyone else who has another question? Vishnu, Ravan, Raga?
I think they might be AFK or something.
Okay, cool. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh no, it's me at Wine again. I'm just saying they might be AFK. Like the people in the meeting, they might be AFK.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, all right. Okay, so scanner scan 2. Okay, here let me edit the print statement and say enter your name. Okay.
Control. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Right now, int player. All right.
Hello, can
String.
you guys hear me?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Vishnu, we hear you.
Yeah, my bad. So like I closed the app, but still I was stuck in the meeting. That's why like I couldn't respond.
All good. All good. All
Oh,
good.
no, that's fine.
Sorry. It was weird though. Like I actually closed the meeting, but then like I was still in the meeting.
All good. All good. Do you have a question?
No, no.
All right. Cool.
Okay. Have a great
All right.
night, guys.
All right. See ya.
Yeah.
Yeah. Once again, I'm really sorry for bothering you guys. It's
All good. All
I
good.
just had this question, and all right.
No,
If you
it's
guys,
fine. You're good.
all right, all right. So string name one is equal to scan dot next. Is it again? Sorry. Scan dot next line, right?
Yeah.
I memorized that for the test. All right. And then as soon as I enter, let's just say I wanted to enter this itself, and then next one I wanted to enter enter no, why do I keep doing that? All right, let's go enter, and what's the name? Yeah, sorry, now, and yeah, system.out.
Yeah. Quick shortcut. You can just use this out, so you don't have to type out the entire
Sysout.
thing. And
Oh, okay. All right, and now enter your number, player 1. Okay. No, yeah, I gotta add the semicolon. Can't forget that. All right. So when I go to run it, the problem is that it would run. It'll run at the same time. So here, run without debugging. All right. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I think I might have made an error. Let me just give me a second. Sorry. Oh, right. Yeah, cause control.
By the way, just so you know, you do not need to create a new scanner object.
I know.
Besides the
I
scanner.
made that rookie mistake because this was on my second or third day. So
All right.
yeah, I made that rookie mistake. I know, but I was too lazy and I didn't want to change the code.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Fair enough. I understand.
All right. So, oh yeah, because I forgot scan 2, right? I know I can use the same scanner, but okay. Now enter your number, scan 2, the next integer. All right. So let's try to go run without debugging. All right. Yeah. So okay, 1. Let's enter a game. Okay. So now oh, never mind. I guess it's working. So like player 1, enter your name. Let me just see it. Ryan. Oh, okay, it's working. Wow.
Hey,
Okay.
nice job.
All right. All right. All right. Thanks. I guess. I guess I figured it out on my own. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's actually called
Really
the
went.
duck method. You go through as if you're telling someone else. Whenever you're debugging code, just debug it as if you're talking to someone else explaining your code. One of the best
Oh,
ways. That's what
all
I do.
right. Oh, yeah, that's a really good method. Thank you. I'll have to remember that for the test, yeah?
Yeah.
All right. Also, just asking, just in general, about the test, like a little bit. Will it be more like, okay, we're going to go into like VS Code and we're going to code this thing based on like these constraints, like you'll give us a few constraints, or will it be more like, oh, it's like a test, you see what the result is and see like what the bugs are and try to debug it? And like,
So as of right now, we have a 40 multiple choice and short answer question part. Like part 1 will be like 40 multiple choice and short answers.
and how
Then
much time do we get?
I believe we have 1.5 hours for this.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's not too bad. Not too bad.
And then part 2 of it will have 4 actual programming questions.
Like, so,
Where
what,
you'll actually
like,
have to open up like I think we're deciding between Notepad or VS Code. You'll have to actually open up something and program it there.
oh,
Or we might use
okay.
code
So,
forms.
1 hour, 30 minutes total.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I mean, as long as I don't mess up on the last 4 ones, I think I should be good. Because
Yep.
sometimes I make mistakes, like small errors when I'm coding, and then that just messes up my entire thing.
We all make them. Don't worry.
Yeah, and do you know by any chance, like, so how does it work? So, like, if you have the highest scores, the highest scoring people can choose between, like, Python and the FRC? Or will it be like, how does it work? I'm sorry, I wasn't there for that part.
Yeah, that's good. As far as right now, we'll discuss more about how this is going to work after the test. But basically, higher score, higher attendance, higher participation means higher. You'll get like a higher preference for your first like pick. You'll get to pick like your subgroups and like rank them.
So it's like, based on your attendance and test scores, it'll basically be like based on that you get like, you get a higher chance of getting your first pick because like there's probably gonna be a lot of people who want to code for the FRC and it'll basically be kind of like your insurance, if you will, right?
Yeah, yeah.
All
We'll
right.
discuss more how exactly it works later, but that's the gist.
All right. Yeah. Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah. Sorry for holding you. Have some dinner, I guess.
I was eating while the meeting was happening, so.
Oh, wow. All right then.
All right.
Enjoy your dinner, I guess, guys. Have a good night.
Good night.
See you, man.
See ya.